singing ability has been pointed out. You won't be surprised when I pay tribute to you as our president did when he was there, and now you can have it for me. Every time I make a presentation, I do a rendition of him. I'm so in love with you. If he can sing it to the free world, I can sing it to y'all here in Wichita. You know, my name is Richard Mabion. I am a throwback. I am old school. I am a community organizer from the 60s. Back when you actually organized communities. So, when I had a chance to, I am a casualty of 9/11 in the sense that my business was destroyed, like most small businessmen were in this country. So when I had to regroup, I found out that really the only thing they had going out here where I fit was the environmental movement. And the reason I found that as my place was because there were a lack of people of color involved with the environmental movement, with progressive groups in this country. Need I say, look around. I thought then that that was my fit, the place that I should be. I got involved with the movement to try to see what it was I could do to get more people of color involved. In the process of doing that, I was tutored, I was taught and trained by some probably the greatest environmentalists that this country has. I've had one-on-ones, face-to-face with them. Case in point, David Korten. David Korten is my guru. David Korten is the one that taught me what the environmental movement in this country is really about. You hear a lot of comments being made, but there's one comment that you very, very rarely hear, and that's the word peak oil. If the knowledge and understanding of what peak oil truly means was known by the population of this world, a lot of the circumstances that we're going through, we would have hordes of people. This place would be packed. We'd have people outside fighting because they couldn't get in to learn what we know. So, one of the messages I learned along the way was you have three phases of a movement. One being the beginning, one being the middle, and one being the end. When you hear people talking about solar panels, and windmills, they're talking about an end result era. They're talking about a place where we're trying to go. We're not there. Where we are in this movement, in any movement that you find going on in this country, is at the beginning. The beginning of the movement is education. Our responsibility is to establish a legacy for the next generation. Now, if you look at the sheet that listed what I was going to be doing, it says, okay, race in the Occupy Wall Street, energy policy, jobs and diversity, inequality of jobs as a factor, and then even about the 2012 election. When I got my postcard from the group that's been working to put this together, and I just want you to know I really have enjoyed working with this group here. It's been a thrill. I really feel some energy out of these people. I wish I was around them all the time. I wish I'd move them all to Kansas City. It would be a much better city. When they gave me this thing on the Koch crimes, and it talks about support corporate money for elections, against Wall Street reform, collective bargaining, reduction in carbon emissions, public education, support resegregation of schools. I was somewhat stunned. Before I got this list, the thing that I was going to talk about was the support for the election. You know, the NAACP took that on as a #1 cause and did a demonstration at the Koch brothers headquarters in New York in December. So I felt like coming here was a continuation of what they started back there in December. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get any of the NAACP people here. I tried, but they're not here. So I'm here. And I was going to talk about the fact that they put money up to support the election, as far as changing policies and rules as far as how things are being done. You know, it reminds people of the Jim Crow days when a black person would step up to register and they'd ask him how many beans in a jar. Not that it's that severe, but it's those kind of conditions and circumstances that's out there going through the minds of some of the older folks who's been around. But when I saw this resegregating thing, I was curious because I didn't really know about it. So I looked it up. And when I found out how they had put the money into that effort in North Carolina, and when we looked, they have a video. If you go look it up on the internet, they got a video on there, and saw how people were out in the streets in this North Carolina time fighting like we did back in the 60s. You know, it just sends chills through you to know that these two guys were responsible for that going on. And that's when my message for the day became a factor. And the best person I knew for me to be able to use for my message was my mentor, David Court. When I started a conference in Kansas City, and it's called Breaking the Silence, the name of my organization is Building a Sustainable Earth Community. That came from David Corton's book on the Great Turning. That's what I met him. David Corton also wrote the book, the thing that made him an international bestseller was When Corporations Rule. Yeah. A great book. If you ever get a chance to see it, check it out. He also was asked to write one on Wall Street collapse, and that's the one about whatever it is, something about the new energy. Somebody here knows the name of it, they can shout it out for me. But The Great Turning is the book that he had just written when I met him, and that had to do with environmentalism. So I got him to come to Kansas City to be my keynote speaker for my first 2 conferences, and the conference's theme was the lack of people of color involved with progressive groups. As I said, that's what I went into it for. We are still the only people of color environmental conference in the country. The only. When I say people of color, I'm not talking about the conferences for black people and people of color. It's a people of color leadership as far as planning the conference. When I have my group sitting in a room, 1/3 of them is people of color. I haven't got the Hispanic community like I want yet, but the black community now, at least 1/3 of them are there. And I think that's a major step. I ran into problems with my white counterparts in Kansas City. That's going to happen because they're not used to a black person who can think. A black person that don't necessarily have to listen to what they got to say. So when you deal with one, you're going to run into problems. I've never spoke to a Kansas City group in my life. This is my 3rd time speaking in Wichita. So Wichita, you're being Mabionized. You don't know it, but one day you'll all come together and say, I know that guy. Okay. They wanted to argue with me about why David was coming to Kansas City, so I asked him to send me a Kansas City statement. This is his statement. Richard, you asked me to describe my intentions regarding my visit to Kansas City. In the largest sense, it is no different from my intentions where I have visited to speak about the Great Turning from empire to earth communities. It is to spread awareness of the essential need at this distinctive time in the human experience in turn from dominator to partnership relationships as an organizing model for human societies and to deepen understanding of what this requires. We cannot look to institutions of imperial domination for leadership in this great work. Such leadership must necessarily come from the broad-based popular movement that leads from the bottom. Empire maintains its power in part by controlling the prosperity, security, and meaning stories that frame the dominant culture, and in part by keeping us fragmented by race, gender, age, and class, to keep popular social movements fragmented and thereby impotent. Of these divisions, the division by race remains the most intractable. We are an apartheid nation. This apartheid plays out in our progressive social movements and ultimately incapacitates them. I believe it is not a consequence of the intent of anyone in these social movements. Yet there are too few initiatives specifically devoted to multiracial dialogue on progressive issues and agendas. I'm working with groups all around the United States and Canada to engage dialogues that raise consciousness of the need to change the stories that frame the culture. With few exceptions, however, these dialogues are limited to largely white groups. This means there is little opportunity to deal with the need for interracial solidarity other than to lament the lack of it. This is why I'm so energized by the Kansas City initiative. In this initiative, the leadership is coming from communities of color, and the defining purpose is to build a multiracial dialogue. This is hugely important, and I am committed to supporting it whatever way I am able daily. Now, when I realized that I was supposed to come here and talk about this irrelevant conversations that's going on out here in this Occupy movement, young people. Now, those of us that are older, I'm speaking to my young folks right now. Do not allow it to happen. That is the system's way of trying to derail you. We have to stop allowing the system to dictate our agendas. This past 2 weeks, we've had a circumstance in this country that should have had all of us in here today outraged. This contraceptive issue it just sends chills through me. When I see those men sitting across at that daggum meeting, I want the Occupy people to hear me. This is where the negativity is coming out towards you. Because every Occupy group in this nation should have been enraged. As much as the Wall Street circumstances is a concern and a problem, so should that be. So should that be. As much as that resegregated circumstances going on in North Carolina, so should that be. Racism, if we're going going to be a solid, if you're going to practice solidarity, then let's practice solidarity. I'm going to be different than my other speakers, and I'm going to give you some time to ask some questions. So you can talk to me. I mean, there's one thing about it. You don't have to be opposed to talk to me. So when you see me around here, just grab me by my coat or whatever's available, and we'll sit down and we'll have a cup of coffee and we'll talk, because there's a lot that I feel each and every one of you individually need to hear from me. Also, there's things I need to hear from you. So just grab me by the coat and let's talk about it. Now, you got any question? Yes, sir.
Tell me again, you said you remembered the author.
David Korten, K-O-R-T-E-N. Look him up. If he could be here right now, he'd be here. He's getting older now. He was a Harvard business teacher, and he left Harvard because he couldn't stand the school and went to third world countries and rebuilt their financial systems. That's when he wrote the book, When Corporations Rule. Then he came back to the United States, and he's been trying to go around and educate us. His biggest thing is we need to do it from the bottom up. Okay? And that's what this whole process is that I'm sitting here talking about. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
You might mention Yes Magazine that he and his wife
founded.
Yes,
him and his wife, they have a magazine out called Yes Magazine. Van Jones, if you anybody know who he is the guy that Obama selected as his green czar, that Glenn Beck got kicked out because of some of his fraternizing before he went in. I also went to his school. Van is very responsible for giving me the leadership that I got in some of the areas that I'm working. And they did an article with him there. Yes, sir.
Have you read the book, The New Jim Crow?
No, but I know about it. I read it. I have some problems. I have some problems with the black community still using issues of those natures as a reason to be heard. This is not about that. We all know what happened in them days. That's not about that now. Okay? That causes division. They would, the system would print her book before they published mine. I wonder why. Because anything that's designed to cause division, they support. I love her to death. I heard her speak. I got her article sitting on the side. She made me conscious about prisoners, and I'm not a prisoner person. You can't do everything. But she made me conscious because I started realizing if we don't find ways for prisoners to find employment, then who's going to do it? Corporations aren't going to hire them unless they're going to use them to do some of their dirt. Anyone else? So I'm not knocking the book. I'm telling you, I know it's out there. She just spoke in Kansas City. I was busy. I didn't get a chance to hear. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to let you know there was a meeting of progressives here in Wichita last night, and there was maybe close to 10% of people there were people of color, which was very, very nice to see. Obviously, you're not here today. Why do you think the environmental community do to include more people like yourself? Congratulations on your motion to this year for executive.
Oh, you heard about that. I didn't tell people that. Excuse me. I'm a little slack to that, but you're looking at Kansas' first black Sierra Club board member. And guess where I got them? They in the hood. The Sierra Club is in the hood. They're proud of it. I'm proud of it. And black organizations in the hood have sent me a letter wanting to know, can they partner with me and the Sierra Club? People, that's a major, major step. That, Tom, would be more important to me than the book on Jim Crow. It's time for us to come together. Anyone to say?
I was wondering, you spoke about how you...
Excuse me, everybody's saying we need to use the mic, so everybody wants to say something. Please let me get the mic to you. And please stand up. I'm sorry, I just had to get you.
Yeah, we're going to put you on the front street around here. Also, by the way, before he speaks. I just wanted to say, Mary, I really appreciate you letting me know that, first of all, thank God for the 14th Amendment, but I want y'all to know that if it hadn't been for them freeing me, the corporations would have never been considered a person. I learned that today.
Yes, I was wondering, you were discussing how you managed to take, like I was really wondering what kind of tactics you've used to get people, especially like with the minorities and stuff, actually, like what have you done on the ground to get them more involved? Like what are your tactics?
It's
how do you do it? Just walk into a church and like, follow me.
Yeah, that is a major question. And one I hope that I'm able to write a book and retire, me and my lady retire somewhere with my feet propped up. I'm still learning. Making some major headways. Some of it goes with just the trick of the trade. You're a community organizer and you know how to bring people out. Right now I have a guy that I've got invited to my conference this year who started a AIDS and Enlightenment meeting every Friday morning in a McDonald's in Kansas City, Missouri. That meeting has turned into one of the most powerful meetings for black people in Kansas City, Missouri. If you're going to do anything, I don't care what your ethnic race is in Kansas City, Missouri, you got to go in there on a Friday morning and talk to that group. That's how powerful it is. So, I got one of my guys who goes to the meeting to get the guy in charge of the meeting to agree to do a breakout session at my conference. Now what he's done, if you look at my conference, and if you want to see my website is breakingthesilence.us. It'd be a good cultural experience for you to see it. But if you look at it, you see I got him on there as AIDS and Enlightenment, because what's going to happen, he's going to bring his people. Now when his people walks in, they're going to hear the likes of Mary Lindsay. She's going to be there talking about moving to $1 million. I got other progressive people that's going to be there talking about progressive issues and topics. So you have to kind of find a way to get people there. This is not an issue of you being able to go out and open up your arms and say, you open your arms and they'll come. You have to really work at it. I heard a person ask Majora Carter that, if any of you know who she is, at a conference in Boston. And she said, when people want to know how you get people of color to participate in what you're doing, sometimes you might want to consider participating in something that people of color are doing. It's your generation that I got to get to. Okay, us old folks here, we know the story, but it's y'all the one that's going to have to teach our future generation. We need y'all to do that.